Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you are in the US. My name is Kelly Head. I'm a staff attorney here at ASISTA. Thank you so much for joining us on our orientation webinar. This webinar is intended for OVW LAV grantees and sub-grantees, sub-grantees, private ASISTA members, and anyone who is interested in learning more about ASISTA. Please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat and to say where you're from. And I'd like to turn it over to my co-presenters to introduce themselves. Maria, what do you do here at ASISTA? You're on mute.
Hello, I'm Maria Lazarino. I'm the Program Associate at ASISTA. My main role in the organization is in the areas of membership, administration, evaluation, Listserv, grant administration, and training. I am the support staff for all ASISTA webinars and conferences. Leah, what about you?
Hi, I'm Leah, and I'm a staff attorney here at ASISTA, and so I'm primarily working with our private ASISTA members for TAs and also providing webinars as well and trainings. And Christina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I joined ASISTA yesterday. Today is my second day. I am the legal and policy director, responsible for overseeing the programmatic work and our policy development. Very excited to join this amazing team and be working with all of you. Thanks. Kelly?
Next slide, please, Maria. So this is our agenda for today. We'll start with introductions and identifying all of the staff here at ASISTA, accessing our services, discussing the OVW grantee versus ASISTA member benefits, technical assistance or TA, listservs and training. We'll also be talking about navigating ASISTA's website, and at the end of the webinar, we'll do a virtual tour of our website. We'll also be discussing ASISTA's other work and future services. Next slide, please. This is our current staff here at ASISTA. Our executive director is Kirsten Rambo. As you just heard, our new legal and policy director is Christina Velez, and we're thrilled to have her. Our program associate, who you met, is Maria Lazarino. Senior legal counsel is Amy Chung. I'm sure many of you might be familiar with her. We also have Leo Casio, who's here on the call with us, myself, and our finance and communications manager is Alam Musa. Next slide, please. Leah, I think this is you.
Yeah, so our first poll will be, how long have you been receiving services from ASISTA? So options are less than 1 year, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 5 years, or more than 5 years. So that poll should be launched.
Maria, I'm seeing that someone doesn't have access to the poll. Okay.
Right, I'll give it about 10 more seconds. Last few seconds here. All right, so the majority of you have been here less than 1 year. Members for less than 1 year, welcome. We love having you. Followed by 1 to 3 years, a little over a third of you, and some 5+ years. That's awesome. Thank you. Next slide. I believe we have another poll. All right. And so this is, which ASISTA services or products have you used? And here you can check all that apply. So that'll be our listservs, technical assistance or TA appointments, webinars, in-person or virtual trainings, practice advisories, or other. And please feel free to put in the chat what that is if you choose that option. Give it about 10 more seconds. Last few seconds. All right. So 75% of you have attended our webinars, 50% listservs, and then pretty evenly split with TA appointments, our trainings, and practice advisories. Thank you for that. And we're going to be going into a bit more detail about these benefits. You can go, yep. So what are these benefits? So our technical assistance would be providing information, talking through issues on cases, and that can include case intervention with USCIS. We're flagging where, you know, they're not following policy or regulation and trying to get things back on track. We specifically have expertise on U and VAWA cases, VAWA cancellation, and related cases. Webinar access, so free access to our webinars and also recordings of prior webinars. We'll be going into a bit more detail of these things as well. So our trainings, so we have in-person and with COVID, virtual trainings, and we do have provide a discounted rate for those sponsored trainings. And also our listservs, which many of you are aware of, and we're going to go into detail about each of these benefits, including these listservs. And so these listservs allow our members to collaborate with each other across the country about trends they're seeing, issues they're seeing, solutions they found that worked. And so we'll move into technical assistance with Maria.
Mute off.
Sorry, I was muted. I received several times emails from grantees or from private members that have issues connecting our account. So let's take 2 minutes to see what are the problems. So first, ASISTA uses Neon as our database or CRM. The system allows us to have individual accounts and organization accounts. The individual accounts are used to record and store our interaction with ASISTA. So every time you participate in a webinar or in a conference or submit a TA, that record is stored in your individual accounts. I believe all of you have individual accounts with ASISTA. And solo practitioners have individual accounts, and they also access the individual accounts to submit renewal on the membership payments. The organizations work a little different. When you are part of an organization, you have an organization account, like a family account, and behind that account, you have other accounts, individual accounts, some members account linked to that organization account. And we see that sometimes members renew the membership in the wrong spot. So what is going on? To have a renewal on the membership as an organization, you need to access the organization account using the organization credentials. So let's say ASISTA has an account. Kelly, Christina, Leah, we all have individual accounts, but also one of us has a login to log in as an organization main account person. That person is the one that will monitor and we have control over the payment of the organization memberships. And it's important that when the membership is renewed, all the sub-members are included in the renewal. The system will guide you through that, and it will ask the question, is Maria still an assistant? You click yes. The moment that you do not select, Maria will be unlinked from the organization account. So all of you want to have access to your accounts because this is how you submit a TA. You log in an account to submit a TA or to schedule a TA with our assistant system. If you have problems connecting your account on logging in, send me an email and I will figure it out what is going on. Sometimes the system creates duplicates because when events are merged into the system and there is a discrepancy of an information, the system will create a duplicate account. So if you have any issues logging in your account, please send me an email. Do not create additional accounts because that will not solve any problem. Send me an email and we will figure it out what is the problem. So we will have a few slides. Let me move my slide. This is how you access your account. You go through the website You log in Neon. You can also have that link in your desktop, and you click in the upper corner, and you will click login. I recommend you using your email address and a password that you are familiar with. You can always reset the password if you have any problem by clicking on submit the password. And again, if you have problem, please contact me. Do not create additional accounts. It will always confuse the system. The system will also tend to open the prior information that you have. So also sometimes switching browser will solve the problem. This is the login. And we did that for you to have it. So if you have any issues, you can check where to log in the account. Now let's say that you have the organization account, you submit a payment, you put all our members, but you have additional members to add. This is how you add new accounts. You create an individual account that then needs to be linked to the organization account. Anyone should have login and password to be able to access the accounts. When you register with us, you will receive a welcome email with a link to our ASISTA YouTube channel if you are a private member, or to our ASISTA OVW channel if you are an OVW grantee or sub-grantee. And you also have in the same letter a link to our TA process. So keep that email handy, and if not, ask for a copy of that email so you can have links for easy access to our systems. This is the account to create, the screenshot to create an account. And this is what you see when you log in your account. Don't get too attached to the number. The number changes. Every time I merge accounts and I clean up duplicates, the number may change. So from your account, if you say, it says, use the pull-down menu to register. And on the right side of your screen, you will see what would you like to do next. You can update your profile. You can have access to all your prior webinar registration. You can do donations to ASISTA. You can schedule a TA. See? This is why we want you to have access to be familiarized or the system so you don't struggle when you want to submit a TA. And now let's see how we submit a TA. So Leah, back to you, please.
And I'll pass it to Kelly.
Oh, okay.
Next slide, please.
Sorry.
So technical assistance, as Leah talked about a little bit before, is individualized assistance on a particular question or case. It could be an answer to a specific question, could be brainstorming strategies and solutions for a difficult issue. It could include resources like samples and legal citations. It could include review of documents as well as case intervention to Vermont or Nebraska Service Center, ICE, or USCIS headquarters. And one thing to note about interventions is that because of confidentiality statutes that USCIS needs to follow for victim-based cases, we usually don't hear back from USCIS after we do an intervention. So we rely on you all to let us know what, if anything, USCIS did in response to the intervention. So that's really helpful to follow up on that. Regarding interventions, we are more likely to intervene if the practitioner has already done something to try to resolve the problem with the agency. Like, for example, if the practitioner sent an email to the service center hotline attached to D28, it's been 5 weeks with no response, we're more likely to do an intervention in that case than if the practitioner hadn't already emailed the hotline. And then with TA, we just wanted to clarify also that ASISTA does not provide direct legal services, and we aren't able to do, like, the entire case for practitioners or review the entire case. We're here to help folks brainstorm and help folks think, and we're here as a resource. Next slide, please. A note to OVW grantees under, and when we say OVW grantees, we mean OVW Legal Assistance for Victims, or LAV grantees or sub-grantees, as well as STOP sub-grantees. OVW funding restrictions for us require that to receive an OVW TA, your client's immigration case has to be based on or related to or arising from one of those 4 crimes that's listed on the slide, which are domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking. And again, that is an OVW grant restriction, so it's important that we follow that. Some folks are members of, like, private members of ASISTA and their OVW grantees. If that's your case and your client's case is not related to one of those crimes, you can still receive TA on that question from ASISTA. It's just that you would schedule it as a private member TA instead of an OVW TA.
What if someone is an OVW grantee, but the case is related to trafficking?
So that's a great question. It depends on the facts of the particular case, whether the person can receive OVW TA. For example, if someone is trafficked and they're filing a T visa based on the trafficking, if they were, for example, sexually assaulted in the context of the trafficking, or if the trafficker is an intimate partner and the trafficking is a form of domestic violence, that person still may be able to receive OVW TA on that question. But if, say, the person was labor trafficked and there's no indication that there's any relationship to one of these 4 crimes, then they would not be able to receive OVW TA. For organizations that are both private members and OVW grantees, and the TA is eligible for OVW, we would request that folks schedule the TA using the OVW TA form, both because we need to track TAs for OVW grant purposes, and also because we generally receive fewer OVW TAs than private TAs. So it's most likely that you would get a response faster if you schedule it as an OVW TA. And if people aren't sure whether their case counts as an OVW TA, because this can be a little complicated, please feel free to schedule the TA and we will look into it to see if we can take it as an OVW TA, or you can contact me and my email will be at the end of this presentation and we can discuss whether the case is an OVW TA. And if you are not eligible for OVW TA and you're not a private member, you're always welcome to join ASISTA as a private member to receive assistance on that issue, and you can contact Maria for information about that. Next slide, please. So ASISTA's individual TA is in 2 different forms. Most TAs are going to be on video call. So these are one-on-one 30-minute appointments with an ASISTA attorney on Google Meet. It's scheduled on ASISTA's TA appointment system, and private members will schedule using the individual TA option, and OVW grantees who have an OVW eligible question will schedule using the OVW option. And for you can ask short follow-up questions after the TA by emailing the attorney who took the call. And if you have a question that is a little bit more involved as a follow-up to the TA, you would schedule what's called a follow-up TA. If it was an individual private member TA, you would schedule with the attorney who took the initial call. Say your initial call was with Leah, you would schedule follow-up with Leah. And if it was an OVW TA, you would just schedule using the same forms. Generally, I'm the only one who does the OVW TA. We also offer written TA, and that is primarily for people who have accessibility needs or who cannot use the TA video call system. We want to make sure folks are able to access our TA. So that's mainly what written TA is designed for. Written TA, you do schedule your question by submitting it through our TA appointment system. There's a separate form for written TA. When you go to schedule the written TA, it will ask you for a date and time. That's not actually the date and time that you will get the response to the question. It's just you have to do that for purposes of scheduling the appointment. You will get an email response within 10 days. So say, for example, you submit a written TA question today, and you select April 14th as the appointment date. Again, that doesn't mean you'll get a response April 14th. That was just for purposes of scheduling the appointment. And for written TA, it's fine to respond to the response to ask any follow-up questions that you have. not on this slide is we also do emergency TA, but our definition of emergency is pretty limited because we have limited resources and capacity. For these purposes, a TA is an emergency when there is first an imminent risk of death within 3 months, removal within 1 month, or imminent risk of age out within 3 months. And again, it's very important that people only schedule emergency TA if it's a true emergency. Some examples that we don't consider an emergency are, say, the attorney came back from vacation and there's a deadline in a few days, or if an attorney missed a deadline under our criteria, that would be considered an emergency. And if folks schedule a TA that's not truly an emergency, we'll contact them to ask them to reschedule it as a regular TA. And again, we do understand, of course, that survivors are priorities, and we share that with you, but just because of limited resources, we need to limit who can schedule emergency TAs. Next slide, please.
Kelly, can we submit documents for review during the TA scheduling process?
Yes, you can, especially if your TA, for example, is about an RFE. It is very helpful in the scheduling process if you could submit the RFE so the attorney is able to see it and review it before the TA appointment.
Thank you.
So this is just a detailed explanation of how to submit a TA request. So you log into your account, you click on what would you like to do, which again is on the right-hand side of that member or grantee homepage. You'd select TA appointment system. Once you click on that, you'll be able to click on click here to schedule your appointment, and then you pick the form that applies to your request. If it's an OVW TA, you click the OVW option. If it's written TA, you click written TA. Once you select the form, you'll be prompted to give your time zone. And once you do that, there will be a calendar that will show available dates and times for an appointment. Once you select a date and time, you will get the TA intake form. It asks, who you are, who you work for, what type of case it is, what are the issues. And it's very important that folks fill that out accurately and completely, because especially for OVW purposes, we need to track what types of cases we're getting TA for. And on the TA intake form, like I talked about with Maria, folks can attach documents, and we would ask that people do that if necessary. And after you schedule the appointment, you should get a confirmation email, and that email will have the link to the Google Meet appointment that we will be using to meet with the attorney. Next slide, please. And this is a screenshot of the TA intake page for an OVW TA. So you could see that it specifies it's for LAV grantees and STOP sub-grantees only. Next slide, please. And this is the individual private member TA intake page, and it just says individual TA. So when someone sees that, it just means that it's for private members. It's not an OVW TA. Next slide.
Yeah, and just a comment from the email that you receive after submitting a TA, you have also the option to reschedule the TA if something happened and you cannot make that time. You have also the option to cancel the TA if your question was resolved. So always use the email to communicate the TAs, and you also can create the event in your calendar so you will also know when there is your TA meeting coming up.
And another type of TA that we offer both for private members and OVW grantees, they're in separate meetings, but we offer it for both, is group TA. And folks can sign up for group TA by registering for the call using the TA appointment system. And there's the name of the form for OVW TA is listed here on the slide, group TA for OVW grantees and STOP sub-grantees. There is a maximum of 8 grantees or sub-grantees per call. So if you want to participate in OVW group TA, please sign up as soon as possible to have a better chance of being able to participate. For group TAs, unlike individual TA, we use Zoom instead of Google Meet. So once you sign up for group TA, you'll receive a confirmation email with the Zoom link for that call. And the purpose of group TA is to be able to review your question in a group setting with other grantees and sub-grantees. It's an opportunity for folks to strategize and brainstorm together, learn from each other, and get information and updates about trends in the field. Because this is a group setting and there's multiple grantees on the call, this is best for cases that don't require document review. For cases that do require document review, we would recommend that you schedule an individual TA. And the slide here has some upcoming dates for OVW Group TA. We have one coming up on May 17th, so that's about a month away, August 9th, October 18th, and December 6th. When scheduling an OVW Group TA, no date will show up if it's more than 60 days away. So for example, you can't schedule quite yet for the August 9th TA, but you can just write these dates down on your calendar, and then you'll have them for the future when you need them. And for OVW Group TA, it's the same rules as for individual TA. The case has to be either based on or related to or arising from one of the 4 crimes that we discussed earlier. Next slide, please.
So the private group TA is fairly similar in structure to the OVW TA. However, you will schedule it as obviously not an OVW group TA. There are 2 generally each month, the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays. And Amy and I alternate the groups for the private group TAs. There's a maximum of 10 attendees per call for the private group TAs. And similarly, it's not just to get information from ASISTA, but as well as from other practitioners who are joining the call. And so similarly, this is better for questions that don't require document review. And to clarify document review, we do encourage and appreciate documents attached when they're related to the case questions. However, that is very different than reviewing an application. That is outside the scope of what we do, but where the documents are helpful to the issue that you're facing or that you want to discuss with us, please do include those with your TA request. And I do believe you can even attach them afterwards if you didn't attach them originally when you scheduled your appointment. So again, these are the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of each month, and similarly to, unless they're canceled in advance, and similarly to the other TA appointments, you can schedule that through the TA system.
Thank you.
So written TA, we've discussed that a bit. And so similarly, you log into your account to create a TA appointment. So it'll follow a similar process to scheduling an individual TA appointment. However, you'll be selecting the written TA option. You'll still select a time zone and a time for the appointment, but as Kelly stated earlier, you won't have a call then, and depending the date you choose, it's not when you'll get the response. But once you submit that intake and written TA appointment request, and again, attaching any documents that might be helpful for us to review to provide a response, not only will we get a confirmation email for the appointment, within 10 days, you will also get a response from an ASISTA attorney to your question. So again, it's important to know you will not have a video appointment. So even though you're scheduling for a specific date and time, and it's not to have a call with us, if you want that, please use the appropriate either OVW or individual TA appointment processes to schedule that appointment. And so this is a screenshot that shows you what it looks like when you're scheduling a written TA, that it'll say it is a written TA appointment. And again, this is typically for accessibility, those who have issues accessing video calls. And so webinars.
Let's move to webinars.
Yes, another benefit that you get from membership. So Kelly.
Next slide, please.
Yep.
So first, I'd like to talk about our OVW webinars. The best way to register for these is through the ASISTA email outreach that goes out occasionally to our distribution list. You can also register on our website under the OVW tab, and then you can also register on the TA to TA calendar. TA2, like number 2, TA is the organization that coordinates with us to do our OVW webinars. If you Google TA to TA, you would go to the website, and then there's a calendar with different webinars and events, and our webinars are also on that calendar. So that's another way for folks to register. For our OVW webinars, they are free, and attendance is limited to LAV grantees or sub-grantees, stop sub-grantees, and potential grantees. Potential grantees is new for us with this OVW grant. They're defined as an individual who works for an organization that would be eligible for LAV and or STOP funding, and that would include nonprofit organizations like legal services and victim services organizations, government agencies or entities, tribal governments and organizations, universities, and that includes legal clinics, and state domestic violence and sexual assault coalitions. And many organizations that are private ASISTA members may also be potential grantees under this definition. So if you aren't sure if you're a potential grantee, I would encourage folks to register for the OVW webinar, and then after they do so, we will confirm to see if first they're eligible as a potential grantee, and second, if there's space for the person in the webinar registration. Our policy right now is to prioritize registration for current grantees and sub-grantees, but if you think you may be eligible, please feel free to register. And we also wanted to clarify that organizations that are both private members and OVW grantees also can register for OVW webinars. Unlike ASISTA's private webinars, our OVW webinars are presented through Zoom webinar and are coordinated using TA to TA services, including interpretation when necessary. All of our OVW webinars are recorded, and the recordings are open to the general public. The recordings and materials are accessible both on our website, and the recordings are available on ASISTA's OVW YouTube channel. We have about one OVW webinar every other month. And like our private webinars, CLE credits are available in Texas, and certificates of attendance are available upon request for folks who are seeking CLE in other jurisdictions. Next slide, please.
Right, so private webinars. So attendance is free and limited to ASISTA's paid or private members. Those who aren't members can access the webinars for a fee. Again, if you are both an OVW grantee and a private member, then you have access to both webinars, both the OVW and the private webinars. These are presented through the GoToWebinar system, and they are recorded, but those are only open to ASISTA members. And so you receive the recording after the training. We have approximately 10 private webinars per year. And similarly, we provide credits, CLE credits in Texas, but also provide certificates of attendance upon request. The best way to register for these private webinars is through the ASISTA website or through the outreach that we send about upcoming webinars.
For the OVW webinar topics in the past, this is just an example of some of the topics that we've had. We had a webinar on which status to choose. We had one on pursuing relief and removal proceedings. Most recently this past February, we did one on hot topics in U visa and VAWA cases, and there were many other great OVW webinars that we did in the past. And again, those are all available on our YouTube channel. Our upcoming OVW webinars include one for this April 25th on bias, equity, and the impact of anti-Blackness on immigrant survivors. And that will be co-presented with UGIMA, which is one of ASISTA's partners organizations. And the registration for that closes on April 18th. So please make sure that you register before then if you're interested in attending. On June 10th, we have a panel webinar with ASISTA's partners at UGIMA, the Asian Pacific Institute on Gender-Based Violence, and Esperanza United, and that is on representing immigrant survivors during and post-COVID considerations for attorneys and advocates. And again, that is on June 10th, and registration information for that will be coming out relatively soon. Next slide, please.
I think this is mine. This is like a short version of how we register for webinars. Let me move the chat from my screen. So, as Kelly mentioned, the best way to register is through the outreach piece. Started this year, we sent out a communication piece twice a week, where we include all registration links for all events, private and webinars, private and OVW events, as well as any link to advisory or call for examples or any other work that we are doing during the particular time. So the outreach piece has the links to register for any and all events. If you miss the outreach piece, you can go through the ASISTA website and the membership tab. Under the OVW tab, you can register for the upcoming OVW webinar. And for the private webinar, you will go to the ASISTA website, the training tab, the webinar tab, and the upcoming webinar. One thing for all of you to consider is that we cannot let OVW grantees or sub-grantees to participate in private webinars, and we cannot let private members to participate in OVW webinar. This is not because of us, this is because we have certain limitation with the use of funds from both sides, OVW and private funds. The OVW webinar recording, as Kelly said, they will be posted in the website. So even if you are a private member, you still have access to the webinar, to the OVW webinar recordings. If you want to participate in one of the private webinars, but you are an OVW grantee, you still can do it by paying a webinar fee or paying an organization fee, or joining ASISTA using non-OVW fund, joining ASISTA to be able to participate in our both type of trainings. One important thing also that I want to mention is about the confirmation link. So after you register for each event, you will not receive an automatic approval because it's subject to review if you qualify for one or the other webinar. Saying that after a few days, you will receive a confirmation link if you are approved to participate in the webinar. Please keep that handy. Both systems will send reminders 24 hours before the webinar starts and 1 hour before the webinar starts. Please remember what email you used for the registration. Sometimes you think that you use your office email, but you register with your personal email. So the system will send the reminder and the confirmation to the email that it was used during the registration. As Kelly also mentioned, you can always register for the OVW webinars by visiting the TA to TA website calendar, which also it has great resources and a lot of other training from organizations where you can register as a grantee. And what else? All webinars are recorded. After a couple of days and the recording stream, I will send out an email with the webinar recording and any folder, any material that we share during the webinar. We are trying to implement a paywall to allow private members to access webinar recording in an easy way. So we will try to make that happen by this upcoming year. I'm trying to move on, but it doesn't work. So this is a screenshot where you sign up for the OVW webinar. On the membership tab, you go to the OVW, upcoming OVW webinar. In there, you can find any OVW upcoming webinar sponsored through ASISTA. And the second tab below that is where you will find the recording and any material that was used during the webinar. And because we have been receiving OVW grant for several years, you will have recordings that belong to past grants. This is the OVW webinar sign up screenshot. And this is for private webinar. It will be under the training category, webinars and upcoming webinar members or member webinars. This is a sign up for the webinar. So after registering, as Kelly was saying, we use two systems. Private to pay webinars are presented through GoToWebinar system. You will receive the approval through a NEON confirmation email. It will have the name and the date of the webinar. The OVW webinar are handled, the registration is handled by the TA to TA staff, and you will receive a confirmation to join a Zoom webinar. As I mentioned before, both systems send reminders to the email used for the registration 24 hours before the webinar and 1 hour before the webinar. And if the webinar is approaching and you don't see or you don't find your webinar, your link confirmation, please let me know in advance. I'm the support staff during the webinars, and if you email me a minute before the webinar, I may not be able to help you. So the day before the webinar, send an email if you don't find the link, and I will forward that to you. And as I say, confirmation link is unique. What it means? If I register for a webinar and I have a confirmation link, I can join the webinar. However, if I share the webinar with one of my staff members that forgot to register and that person joined the webinar before me, I will not be able to use my confirmation link. If you are planning as an organization to attend a webinar in a group setting in a conference room, you may be okay with only having one registration link and one confirmation link. However, if you are planning and you decide that each of you will be joining the webinar for each individual office or from the home, you will need more links. So the rule is you need as many confirmation links as computer or individual joining the webinar. Even if it's free, the registration link will be different. And now let's move to one more thing on webinar before moving to ASISTA. As we provide CLE credits for both types of webinar, we need to have documentation on attendance at webinar. I'm not able to provide CLE credits or certificate of attendance if I don't see your name in the registration list. So even if you're planning to watch a webinar in a group, please register individually, attend individually using the link for us to have records, or otherwise we may get in trouble. Now we can move to the listserv. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Maria. And so the listservs, which many of you are aware of and have utilized. So this slide shows the different listservs that are available through ASISTA. So everyone is on the distribution list, and that's where we send comms pieces and announcements, information, updates, invitations to our trainings. And if for some of you have been with ASISTA for a while, this was previously called VAWA updates with Yahoo groups, which RIP. So this replaces that listserv, but still functions similarly. This is not for, communications from y'all to us. That would be the ASISTA experts listserv, more so an interactive list for members, and that does include OVW grantees or sub-grantees. We do not go into the listserv to answer individual questions. If you want that, please schedule a TA appointment so that way we can have that more individualized conversation about the issue you're facing. It is designed, this listserv, for more experienced practitioners, but for sharing strategies on your cases that are survivor-based. The UVisa litigation listserv, although it's named with UVisa, does include litigation based on VAWA relief or T visas. It's also an interactive discussion listserv, but it is focused only on litigation strategies. So again, not for general case strategy questions, unless it's related to litigation. Next slide, please. And so to access the listservs, you complete the application online. Review the listserv rules. You'll have to agree to them to join the listserv. And once that's done and it's reviewed and you're invited to join the listserv, you have to accept the invite to actually complete the process. The ASISTA Experts Listserv has a lot of information going back several years of different practitioners' experiences, solutions, attempted solutions. And so it could also be a vital resource to look through. On this slide are the links that you can use to access the archive. Similarly, at the bottom of an email sent to the listserv, there should be a link that says something like view or reply online, and clicking on that should bring you to these same links to be able to then search through prior messages to see if someone maybe has had a similar issue that you're facing or what they've tried that may or may not have worked, since we know what used to work may not still work. And so as practitioners are overcoming new obstacles in new ways, sometimes that's a great way to look and see what has already been done and what might help you in your present situation.
One option that you have when you are joining the listserv is to set up to receive digest email if you don't want to receive every single email that comes in and out from the website. So you can receive only one email at the end of the day. So we strongly recommend all of you to be on the listserv, because this is the easy way where we send out communications, announcement, what are we planning to do. So even if you think that you're receiving less email, you can switch your subscription to a digest and keep in the listserv. Or use, or if you have some restriction on your work email address, you can always contact me and use any Yahoo, Gmail, or any personal email to be on the listservs.
Yes, and here's where I'd also recommend using whatever rules to just have it maybe automatically go into a separate folder. A lot of good information, but if you're trying to keep your inbox slim, then you might want to have them automatically go into another folder.
Yeah, and be careful when you reply, you can reply to everybody. So,
including your out of office email.
Yes, so be very careful. So we will do the website orientation at the end, because we need to switch screens and I don't know, Zoom sometimes doesn't let us do that. So this is the ASISTA homepage, but let's go to what other work do we do in ASISTA, and then we go back to the website. Or I don't know if we have some questions, Kelly, that you want to review.
Yeah, we can do the next slide.
Sure.
So we've covered a lot of the benefits that many of you have already utilized or have expressed a lot of interest in, but there's a lot of other work ASISTA does as well. And so this slide kind of details what that looks like. So policy, and we have Christina here will be jumping in on that as well. So where there are proposed regulations or updates to the policy manual, we are submitting comments to those. Organizing campaigns to address systemic issues. And so here too, want to say the TA that we do with y'all does inform this. You're on the ground and seeing what new issues are arising as administrations come and go, and different issues come up where previous solutions that historically have worked are no longer functioning. And so that's how we know what is happening and what perhaps can be a better solution. And so we do our best to advocate for that, not only with DHS, but congressional staff, to try to remove these impediments and obstacles for survivors as best as possible. Additionally, we have other resources for practitioners. So sometimes those come with like our trainings, but also standalone advisories or practice pointers on issues. So we've seen that where, for example, like the issues with RFEs not being sent properly, or where I-94s and I-19 approvals have different dates. And so you'll see those different advisories on our website, or practice pointers to just give information of what attorneys, common issues that seem to be arising pretty frequently, and what best practice might be, or what practitioners should keep in mind when handling those issues or trying to preempt that issue occurring in their case. We also do have local and state advocacy. So there are monthly meetings with immigration practitioners. It's primarily to share these strategies for issues on the local or state level. This arose if you remember what happened in 2016, where the positive movement at the federal level seemed a little less likely. So there was a shift to try to focus on local and state issues that were affecting survivors, where advocacy could help create effective change. And so this meeting is still ongoing and sharing these strategies and different advocacy efforts to know what has worked in different regions of the country, to know how that can translate to a different area, or what barriers they hit that maybe they didn't realize they would until they started doing the work. And so that can be a useful space to know what work can be done still. And that also includes training and supporting local and statewide coalitions, DVSA or immigration coalitions. And litigation. So litigation sometimes is the avenue for creating the change that we believe we need to see, or getting them to actually follow, the law. And so here we support litigation through amicus briefs, and you can find many of those on our website as well for review. Developing affirmative litigation efforts, and also matching new litigators with mentors.
And Leah, what do we do if we need to be engaged with a local and state advocacy calls? Who do we contact?
You can contact me. So my information, if it's not on the slide, I can be sure to put in the chat, and we can discuss adding you to that group.
So Maria, did you want to do the website orientation now, or give time for discussion and then do the orientation?
I think we have time to finish if we, and then we do
Okay.
this.
So we wanted to open it up to discussion for you all. What other services or products would you like to see from ASISTA? And please feel free to put your answers in the chat.
Or any ideas you have as well. I will say we do listen, I think we didn't mention, but after our trainings and conferences, we do have surveys, and we do review those. And so where people suggest ideas for trainings, we do try to incorporate that in our plan as we develop further webinars or trainings. And so that is very helpful as well. And so even if it's something like that, please feel free to share.
And also, if you have any sample or document or an amicus or something that you can share and you want to be shared with everybody, we are more than welcome to receive it, clean it up, white out, and post it in our website.
And Kim was asking in the chat if we're asking for training ideas. So sure, that's totally fair game.
And you can unmute yourself if you want, or you can write in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
And while we wait for comments, okay, we have something from Kim.
And Kim, do you mean like whether ICE is still using holds, when they're using them, both?
And for purposes of the recording, the suggestion was status of things like ICE holds for the incarcerated.
He wants both, yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, well, while we wait for other ideas to come in the chat, this is our contact information. I'm the program services and benefits. You can contact me. This is, in there is my email, or any issue with accounts, payment, creation of new accounts, event registration, technical assistance issues, online store. And please, if you go in the website, you'll discover that we have some broken link, let us know. Sometimes we move things internally in our system and end up with a problem in the website. So let us know, we will be more than happy to fix it. For OVWTA, Kelly, but go through the system. Kelly cannot reply TAs that go directly to her, so we really encourage you to use the system. For questions that are not case related, you have in there Amy email for federal litigation, Cristina Vélez for policy questions, and Leah for state and local advocacy. We also always have sponsorship opportunities if your organization or your law firm wants to sponsor ASISTA for training conferences. We run annual sponsorship. We are now have a 5K virtual K and a Spring Bright Horizon campaign. If you want to participate, you can go through the website where there's information how to either participate as a sponsor or to join us in the run. It's a virtual run. And you, if you are in any of the Listservs, you for sure will get more notification on that and the upcoming deadlines. And while we wait, I don't know if you have something else in the chat. If not, we can go to sharing the website, Kelly.
So Jennifer had suggested a training on policy changes and updates, and Kim has suggested training on the current status of dreamers or would-be dreamers. I'm thinking that generally we work on survivor-based forms of relief, but we do recognize that, of course, some survivors also have DACA status or may potentially be eligible for DACA. So we could potentially incorporate information about the overlaps of DACA and survivor-based relief, certainly. And with Maria mentioning about not contacting us directly for TA, that is definitely correct. I wanted to clarify that on the slide, that was more, if you have a question about does this count as OVW TA, you can certainly email me about that. But right, for the actual question itself, you would go through the system.
And we also have a lot of volunteer opportunities. We are trying to build an AAO bank for you and VAWA cases. I have 2 volunteers that promised me to help, but we would like those documents to be shared with everyone. So if you have some staff member in your organization or some additional time that you want to devote to us, there is in our website a form to connect with us for volunteer opportunities, or you can send me an email and I will send you what we have as a volunteer opportunities.
And then just very quickly, Kim has a lot of great suggestions. Another one was the intersection of DSS or CPS investigations and undocumented persons and living situations involving that. So that's also a great suggestion for training, particularly, I think, there's a recognition that often being a survivor can bring a person to the attention of CPS. So if there weren't any other suggestions, we can move on to the website orientation.
Take it from there, Kelly.
Okay, Maria, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
It says I'm screen sharing. You're not able to see it?
Hey, now you are.
Okay. So this is our website. This is our resource library. Information about immigration protections. So like we put out a statement on the bona fide determination process for U visa petitioners. That was last summer. A lot of these are relatively old. Our general resources in the resource library are particularly helpful if the page would cooperate with me. That's where you will find generally our practice advisories. So like, for example, U visas. Let's see here.
Yeah, you can open from there or you can open from the quick links.
There we
So
go.
both, yes.
Like, for example, we have a practice advisory on the matter of LNY, which was a decision from the BIA back in 2020. Advanced issues in U visas and adjustment of status. There were T visa updates to the policy manual last fall. We have an advisory on that. And as you'll see, we often collaborate with other organizations on our advisories. So in this one, we collaborated with CAS, which has expertise on trafficking. Maria, was there anything else in particular that you wanted to highlight?
If you go to the homepage, can you go back?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you step in the about, so the about will give you information about our mission, our core values, our staff, our volunteer opportunities and sponsorship links. That's the first tab, how to contact us, supporting ASISTA. The second tab, the membership is where you go if you want to join us, donate, or you want to see what we provide as ASISTA benefits. It's also in there the link to access the OVW recordings and webinar registrations. All those are links. The resource library, yes, the resource library, Kelly, I talked about that already. In immigration protection, you will find resources for VAWA, UST, cancellation or removal, and the general resources are more resources for your clients. There are a lot of resources and one-pagers on know your rights and in different languages. FOIA resources, litigation, so you need to go and if you're looking for something in particular, send me an email. I'm the one that update the website content on the programmatic aspect, so I can help you on locating whatever is needed. As I said before, we welcome any material that you want to share with us to post in the website. The training tab will have all the training sessions. And we also have, Kelly, if you go one more, we also have the online store. Go to the training, the last pair.
Sure, just give me a minute.
Yeah.
Trainings, online store.
Yes. So we have been saying during this entire hour that private or paid members have access for free to ASISTA webinars. However, if there are any conference that you miss, you can access to the online store to buy the session recordings. We record our webinar, but also all virtual conferences, and we sell the recordings of the webinars and the virtual conferences individually and in group. So you can get it from there. When you buy the conference recording, you don't only get the recording itself, but also all the folder with maps that was included during the presentation. And news and updates is a section that we mainly use for sending any new piece that we are working, advisory, communication, etc. And we have we still have 20 minutes. If we don't have questions, we can finish a little early. But one more thing is we are presenting our next virtual conference on June 8 and 9. The registration is already open on the training tab, conferences. It will be 2 sessions on 2 different days, 3 sessions per day. And I can go back to my sorry, let me bring back my that's why it's not good to change, no? Leah, while I find again can you describe a little about what upcoming conference, please?
Yeah, so the conference will be what's new and where to go from there. And so we will have different panels of USCIS, ICE, just going through a broad range of updates in the field and what we can do for survivors. And so again, that's June 8th and 9th, and that registration is open with more information coming about the individual sessions. So that'll be the 12 to 5:30 each day Eastern time. And so we encourage you to attend. It'll be a great conference, not biased at all.
And I wanted to flag for folks that there will be a panel with USCIS as part of the conference, the USCIS Office of Policy and Strategy and the Office of the CIS Ombudsman, and they are taking pre-submitted questions from attendees, but to have your question considered, it needs to be submitted by May 6th. So when you go to register for the conference, there is a spot to enter your questions. So just make sure to get those in before May 6th.
And I think I also want to reply on questions. So we will be adding a spot to add question if you want to have any questions submitted by a reply by ICE officers. So
thank you, Christina, for highlighting the email that Amy Chung had sent out to the experts list this morning with updates. So definitely make sure to take a look at that.
Yeah, and I don't think that's something we discuss explicitly, but often we'll do calls for case examples, and sometimes that's in conjunction with other organizations. And so that'll be something that will be in comms emails, as well as like the listserv. Sometimes we'll send something out asking for specific information on an issue that has been coming up, so that we can share these case examples with the appropriate context to try to flag an issue. And so we do appreciate responses because it helps us show that the problem we're seeing is actually, pretty widespread and not just a one-off, and to be able to advocate for how to address it and fix it going forward.
And one more thing on the conference, both session, USCIS session and ICE session will not be recorded. So if you want to listen to them, you will have to participate on the conference. You will have to register because we will not be recording those sessions. So Kelly, do you see more questions? So we'll give these people 20 minutes back.
I don't see any more questions, no. If anyone has any more, feel free to add them. Otherwise, we can wrap up for today.
And thank you for joining us. If you have any new ideas or topic for webinars, please, you can email us. And again, thank you for joining us. Bye, everybody.